be doing that. We need this new client to do it with.
Oh, yeah. I do have a favorite exercise and I
Oh,
talk about
tell
it
us
every
about it.
time. Well, um, I just say a little bit about me and my journey with Michelle. So, I started working with Michelle a number of years ago when I was going through divorce. And I worked with her and did her program and um, met my the love of my life through one of those online dating apps. So it's possible.
Which
And
one?
Bumble. So
Bumble.
I'm in the Bay Area, and that I had found was a good one for me. I've been on other ones too, Match and a couple others, but that one was where, at least for my demographic, where I was finding the best results. And I met a wonderful man, and he and I actually got married 2 years ago. Yeah,
Yay,
2 years
congratulations.
ago in June, and and I really I credit a lot of my growth and everything to Michelle and some of the things that we did. And I will talk about my favorite exercise that we did because I actually shared the results with my husband about, I don't know, 10 days after I met him. Because I was just so surprised at what it was. And basically, it's um it's a spreadsheet exercise where you and I did it on a spreadsheet, which is why I call it the spreadsheet exercise, but you don't have to do it on a spreadsheet. And we identified a number of relationships in our lives, and we were asked to identify, I think it was 5 or 6 traits for each of those relationships, that we really what we really enjoyed about that person, or like the positive traits. And then
Mhm.
we had to identify about the same number of negative traits. And our after we did that, we had to rewrite those negative traits into a positive opposite, which is very powerful, actually. And I'll tell you what I mean by that in a second in terms of the positive opposite.
You're such a
And
good student.
yeah, I remember this. And one of the other things that we did was we categorized the various different things. Like, was this, kind of a physical trait, an emotional trait? Was it an intellectual trait? So that we could identify like what things kept coming up for us. And let me see if I can find mine just because
I know what
because
you're gonna
I
say.
chose the thing that makes me laugh and that makes Michelle laugh about this is that I chose to use my dog as one of my important relationships. And it turned out to be very telling. Let me see if my spreadsheet is here. Hold on. No, to do all the stupid sign in things. Oh, send a code. We'll send a code. Send the code.
So yeah,
Oh,
choose, and you guys, we can do this one this evening if you want to choose,
I would love that. That'd be
just,
amazing.
choose one person and then we'll model it and we'll see how far we
yeah.
can go. But choose one person in your life who is important to you and come up with 5 attributes that you admire the most about them. So, and go ahead and write those down. So while Leslie is looking, I'll guide you through it. The beautiful thing about this exercise is it gives you and your brilliant brain evidence that you attract specific things into your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also gives you insight into what you would consider a deal breaker.
Mm-hmm.
So I see their brains working.
Yeah, I'm
Here's
trying
my
to.
most important person. Here are 5 attributes I value the most about this person.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to tell us who your person is, but when you're ready, Ruti and Scott, tell us the five attributes that you value the most about them.
I'm ready.
Okay. Tell us
Okay.
the
He's
attributes you
hardworking.
admire. Mm-hmm.
He's funny.
Yep.
He listens well. He's affectionate, and he goes the extra mile.
Nice. How about you, Scott? You don't even have to tell us who your person is or pet or relationship in any which way, but what are five attributes you admire the most about them?
Um, I'm still writing the fifth one down.
Okay.
Should I work on the bad list now?
The
Um,
naughty list. Sure. Those would be the attributes you like the least about them.
About them, yes.
uh,
I found
res
my spreadsheet, so
Okay.
when do we get
Go ahead,
there?
Scott.
responsive,
Hmm.
uh, cares, um, friendly, um, interesting, like Rudy, goes the extra mile.
Hmm.
And
I'm so proud of you for doing that just now, Scott. I was just going to ask you, be present in your rectangle.
and uh, and and seems to have a nice energy.
Nice. All right, Leslie.
All
And
right,
now, wait, Scott, while Leslie's talking, put the five things you like the least about them. Okay.
so I did when I did this, I chose a number of different relationships. So I did my dog, my two kids, my sister, and my ex-husband. And the different kind of categories that we figured out of things that we were identifying were mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and material. And I think you gave those
Material.
headings to us. But
Mhm.
so I described my dog and I was like, okay, these are like this is what I want to invite in, right? My positive traits were she's loving, she's offers good companionship, she's generous, she's affectionate, and she's soft. And
Oh,
probably the best, like, this is good because of the fact that I was able to not really divulge things about, negative things about my kids or whatever. So I could divulge negative things about my dog. And I was like, okay, these negative traits about my dog, which is actually very interesting because it translates into
Mhm.
things that I was looking for. So I really only identified three, but I was like, she's smelly, she's too loud, and she can't take care of herself. And so I put those into a positive attribute, and I was like, smells good, is quiet, and is self-sufficient.
Oh,
And
so good.
so those were my those so it was like I was able to figure out like, oh, you know, what's interesting about that is that the olfactory nerve, I mean, somebody who smells good is like huge to me, like cologne
Hmm.
and all that stuff. And
Hmm.
I never really, kind of put that together until I did this. And I was like, oh, you know what? I actually really do like it when somebody smells good. And
Neurobiologically, sorry for interrupting.
it's okay.
Our sense of smell informs us more than pretty much anything else because we're looking for a strong partner. And I don't know that in this group we're looking to reproduce anymore, but that is a strong indicator of that chemistry between people.
Hmm.
So, Ruti, do you have five things?
I do. I don't know if I have five because I was listening. He was not loyal. He was flaky. He had a temper, and he wasn't healthy. He wasn't eating right, and he was drinking a little too much alcohol for my taste.
Mhm. How about you,
So
Scott?
if I have to switch it around,
Well, yeah, so the next thing is invert those liabilities into
okay. So he's
assets.
loyal,
Okay,
not flaky. That would be dependable, even-tempered, and health conscious.
nice. And
Okay, I'm gonna
Scott,
write
what
these
are
down.
the primary negative things you enjoy the least about this relationship?
Well, see, here's the thing. Um, we did this exercise so quickly. You said to think of somebody quickly. that I think is a great person, and this happens to be somebody that I met in my acting class. And it's a guy, and I've only known him for less than a year.
Hmm.
So I really don't even know him that well, but from what I've gathered from him, I mentioned those five things. I can't think of five things negative right now about him.
Can you
Okay.
think of three? Three? I
I
only
mean,
had four.
You don't have to drill down into something that's not there. That's okay. But is there somebody, so let's keep him as a placeholder. Is there someone you have naturally around you that perhaps you can find these attributes?
negative attributes.
Well, positive and negative. Somebody who you naturally have around you, like a best friend or something.
Okay. So I have to start over again then.
You're not losing that much tread. You got some,
You
um,
got our rapt
you get
attention.
a bonus point.
Okay. I can tell you, I'm thinking of one person in particular, negative wise, um, sort of controlling. Um, and
Oh,
the, sort of controlling and not necessarily the best listener. I mean,
Okay.
she can be at times, but um, not like I would like to have.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and uh,
Rudy, do the exercise again with another person you naturally have around you. It will give you more evidence. Sidebar while they're thinking, Leslie, this is just
Mhm.
for you. Um, so I've been giving some thought to the relationship challenge that you're having.
Mm.
And so you guys work on your stuff. I'm buying time for you. So come up with another person, Scott. People you naturally have around you, up to, five primary positive traits these people have, and then primary negative things you enjoy the least about them. Um, well, I offer Leslie some coaching. What I would love for you to try and do is figure out one question with no commas in the question. What is it that you would like to have? What are you missing? What would you like? What do
One
you,
question. Is that what you said? One
one
question.
question, I would not, I mean, because what I want to do is boil down all the experiences that you've had, all the things that are frustrating without going into any of that. What's the one thing that you want? And I think with no commas, just the question. And I think that I mean, I think I know what that's going to be, but that's too broad. So where your head just went, if I know you well enough. So you have to like drill down. Why do I want that? What about that do I want? What about that do I want? Why is this what I want?
the five whys, you get to what you really want.
Tell us what you want, what you really, really want. Because I think if we can get through all the rubble, and I think we've actually had a conversation about what you really want, but I think you need to do it like in your own brilliant brain because you are brilliant and you're constantly thinking things through and then you recycle the thoughts. So I think if we dig all the way down to the bottom of the rubble and go, what is it? What do I want? Why do I want that? Why do I want the piece here? Why do I want that role model here? Why do I want what I don't have? Why? So that we can get to one question, no commas, very simple.
What is the no commas, just to make it not so you can focus?
Yeah, so
I think so that you don't put qualifiers on your question,
Right.
it's because
like,
Leslie will do that.
Oh,
so yeah, like, when you have to ask a, yeah, compound question that's really five questions in one, but it's like, oh no, that's one question. It just
So
has
I'm
a shit
trying to
ton of
get her
commas in it.
to figure out what is the root of
yeah.
something that has she keeps coming back to and she keeps giving evidence to what she doesn't want. So I want to know what is it you really want. Okay.
Okay.
And you don't have to do that right now, but that's
Yeah, no, I have to think about that.
yeah, that's my
So
challenge for
I,
you.
I, I will say on this spreadsheet exercise, one of the things that we did do was, because we identified multiple people,
Hmm.
that it was easy to start to see the themes
Hmm.
that boil to the top, like the things that kept repeating themselves in terms of either things that were present in the relationships that I identified or things that I was looking for.
Right.
And I did come up with a list of, like, these are my green lights, these are things that, I really want to have. And then these are my deal breakers. Like, and that's where the negative traits came in, where it was like I kept seeing the same sort of, fear, judgment, anxiety kind of coming up in my negative traits of people. And I just thought, man, I just want somebody who is self-confident and not afraid and, not anxious. I'm not saying that they would never be. There are circumstances where everybody
Human.
experiences fear. We're all human, yeah. But that as on a day-to-day level, that, you know, anxiety is not the first reaction. Um,
Anxiety being fear of what
fear
might be
fear of
coming in the
what might
future.
be, fear of what might be. Yeah. I mean,
It's the
fear of the
opposite.
unknown, and
Yeah.
fear of losing control and stuff like that. That's in what I had identified. I think that came up as a negative a lot,
Mhm.
was, kind of, um stubborn and rude were two things that came up quite frequently. So,
So
yeah.
anxiety is fear of the future. Depression or yeah, fear of the future. Depression is living in the past.
Hmm.
So, okay. So Ruti and Scott, you've got at least two or three people that you've got naturally around you.
I
You
finished the
naturally, yeah.
next person
Okay. And so you've got some positive traits, and then the
and
primary
negative.
negative things you enjoy the
Yeah,
least. And the next is to invert the negative to a
I
positive.
can do that.
So it sounds like good listeners for both of you. It sounds like there was another thing that you guys had in common.
Going the extra mile.
Going the extra mile. Thank you. I was showing my good listening skills.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that was
Now
interesting to
look
invert
for
that one.
repeated patterns, as Leslie was like I mentioned earlier. Leslie's going to be the one step ahead guide. So she's giving you the stepping stones. Are there any repeated patterns on your own?
The health thing is repeating.
Mm-hmm.
And also like something about like accepting, dependable, that kind of like I'm gonna call it present.
Okay.
Interesting. But this is gonna be very good. I'm gonna pick 10 people and do this.
It's a very helpful exercise, because what I found for me is, recurring themes. And then I was able to extrapolate, kind of really looking at my list, and I came up with, like, from my list, and then other things that I was thinking about that were important to me based on my values. I came up with, my 14 themes that were, kind of green lights. And
Mhm.
I came up with a short list of things that I felt were deal breakers. And and they're all kind of related. Those deal breakers are all based on anxiety, fear, black and white thinking and rigidity and that kind of stuff. But, I came up with 14 traits. And I tell you that why this was so transformative, I guess is the best word for it, is because, you know, I'm a strong believer, and this is sort of what Michelle was talking about, is that, we tell ourselves stories and we look for evidence of these stories in our lives, to reinforce whatever our beliefs are. And doing this, I did this exercise at least a year before I met my husband. And so it wasn't necessarily that I had my little checklist, but I met this man and I just went back and I went, okay, this is really weird because he is like everything on my list, including,
Wow.
like my kids are both musical, and I never thought that I was like, a person who would attract somebody who has a music background. And my husband is a really good trumpet player and has been playing trumpet since he was 8, and
Wow.
so number 4 on my list was musical. And I was like, I never really look like that was never anything that I said like, oh, I'm looking for this. I want somebody who's a musician. I never wanted somebody who was a musician. I just realized that's a recurring theme in my life. My kids are into music and this and that. And so, and then to find somebody like when I like gave him my list, he was like, wow, like that's
It's like,
it.
I'm perfect for you.
Yeah, like you like I mean it was literally like I mean it was like I described him before I met him. And that
Hmm.
I think is part of the thing that made this particular exercise, why this stood out for me, is because when we did it, it was, nobody wanted to share. I remember this session, there were like 10 of us in the room and nobody wanted to share. And I was like, okay, I'll share. And then I'm going to talk about my dog because that seemed like the least risky thing to do.
Vulnerable.
And you can see here's a picture of my dog right there that I was
Oh,
describing.
you
This
boo, you
this one
boo,
right
you
there.
boo.
And she was a great dog. She's gone now, but
Mm.
but um but it was really like I said, it was transformative to actually bring to the forefront the things that I wanted to highlight that were important to me, and then to also recognize the recurring themes of things that had caused me problems or that caused me, that are like, oh, I don't like that in a relationship. And this is the only exercise that I've ever done that really brought all that stuff to the front of your brain. Like, oh, I never really thought about it that way. So that's why I found it to be so valuable. So every time I meet with one of these with one of Michelle's groups, or I'm, I was my favorite thing is the spreadsheet exercise. I think you should do the spreadsheet exercise.
So here we are.
So here you are.
All right.
Exactly.
So do you have more than one person? You've got, these are people you naturally have around you. The primary positive traits these people have, the primary negative things you enjoy the least about them, invert the liabilities into assets, then start to note the repeated patterns. So you starting to see that, Scott? Do you have that part?
You should invert them into assets. In other words,
Positive.
yeah, in other words, to let me know what I would want if it weren't like that.
Right.
Right.
So
So
like
you,
I
Right.
did, so I had, these were some of my
So
characteristics.
it's
I had stubborn.
so that the top so that the five actually and then the five negative ones. Now if you flip them around, now you've got 10 positive ones.
Yes.
Correct. Correct. And you can identify, I mean, what I found very helpful about that was I didn't realize how many of the people who I was around that had this sort of like the idea, like what you said, Ruti, that they're not present.
Right.
Like one of the things, I mean, I chose my son for one of these, and one of his negative attributes was plays too many video games, you know? And I turned that
Yes.
around to what I want is somebody who spends time with people.
Right.
And so, it was, some of them are easy, like not flexible, then the
Right.
positive is flexible, but it was like
Right.
stubborn versus flexible, rude versus considerate,
Yeah,
loud versus
I was trying
quiet.
to
Yeah.
I had like makes fun of me. So I was like, well, what is the opposite of that? And it was kind of like it took me a minute, but it was like accepting me with my
Mm-hmm.
idiosyncrasies and
Yes.
madnesses and
Yes.
quirks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I mean it's interesting how if you really think about it that you can turn what feels like this is not a great quality, but to say what is it that I would like instead? And I think that's the whole purpose of this is to identify 10 things about a number of different people and then you do start to see you see things that are repeating. You see the pattern. You start going, oh, what I put on every single one of these is loving and kind. Like every
Ah,
single one of these people had that on there, right? And then all of the people seem to have like, the things that irritated me or that I felt like I don't like this as much. They were all things like anxious and, black and white thinking and rigid. And so those are the things that speak to me. There's other, I didn't have to identify those things, but those are the ones that stood out. And that's the only thing. And so what was helpful about the negative piece was to also identify, hey, if somebody was like this all the time, like that would be a deal breaker for me,
right.
you know? I mean, and so I had mine all color coded. Like I had the green light ones and I had the red light ones and just because that's the way my brain works. So,
Yeah,
anyway.
good. So Scott, do you have a couple of options there? A couple of examples?
Yeah, I have somebody here in my life who's energetic, loyal, fun-loving, direct, and independent. And the flip side is can be bossy, uh,
Hmm.
talk too much, loud in terms of not necessarily loud in terms of how she her voice, but just she's big. Music
Assertive?
music plays loudly, and
Hmm.
it's like why do you have to do that? um, and then believe it or not, it's a double-edged sword. I put direct and independent
Right.
because it's good to be direct, but you don't want to be it do it in an abrasive way. And
Hmm.
it's good to be independent, but not to the point whereby you just say, well, I think people should be interdependent. You want to be independent, of course, but also interdependent, because it's nice to know that you depend upon the other person for a little bit, but you're not depending
Hmm.
upon them to like live your life.
Right.
Well, this person is just extremely independent.
Yeah, yeah. That actually, I agree with you that can, while it can be a positive, it can really be a liability in certain circumstances where you feel like, well, I'm here. I can help with that. I can, and the concept of interdependence is a really good one. Um, you know, I'm
Who
suffer.
do you have in your life, Scott, who you're interdependent on?
Pardon me?
Who in your life, you don't have to name the person, but who are you interdependent on?
Uh, I can think of one person.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
And growing up, were there more people?
with whom I was interdependent.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I myself prided myself on being rather independent, and it's interesting. Leslie, you said you related to music. I relate a lot to music and movies,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and I think of that song by the Beatles. When I was so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Now those days are gone. I was extremely independent, and I kind of want to be a little bit dependent upon somebody.
Yeah, yeah.
Not extremely, but a little bit, because I think everybody wants to be wanted.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And if you know who Harold Kushner was, he wrote a book on when bad things happen to good people.
Oh, yeah,
He also wrote some other books too, and he talked about how everybody wants to be somebody's somebody.
right.
Mhm.
And if you're completely independent, like you're not
How do
somebody.
how does that work exactly?
Yeah.
So this is one of Scott's concerns because when he's diving into the dating pool, He says that the women see him as someone who has never been married, therefore, they worry that he is not able to be intimate or vulnerable in that way. So, I think one of the additional valuable aspects of this exercise for you, Scott, is to highlight when you have been in relationships when you have had that interdependence. And this will be part of your, maybe not necessarily the headline, but I think it might be really nice to put this in the forefront so that you're answering the question that women either who you're interested in, they either have the question in their mind or they're not thinking to ask it. But we want to answer that question so that it is resolved and they can see you as someone who can be intimate, who can be interdependent, and, can be vulnerable in a partnership. So, for you in particular, this is a nice exercise to highlight those things so that you're answering the question before the question arises. Does that resonate with you?
I understand what you're saying. It makes sense. I guess my question is how to have that come through.
Okay, so we're right on the right track. So, do another person who you have been interdependent with. And do you have the positive traits, the negative traits, and then invert those liabilities into positives? Okay, got them.
So,
You got a
yeah,
question?
yeah. So this one woman that I knew years ago,
Hmm.
she was loving, she was a great listener. She was very pleasant tempered. She was affectionate. She was fun.
Hmm. Excellent.
And I can only think of two things negative, which is the reason why I'm no longer with her.
Okay, that's fine.
And the first one sounds very shallow, but I gave it a shot to try to look over it. It just didn't fit with me.
Hmm.
She was overweight. I try to look beyond that because I'm thinking, it's a physical thing. That's not what should matter. But I realized that it mattered to me to some extent. So maybe it was being superficial. But I gave myself a pat on the back because I did give it a shot. And she was geographically undesirable.
Hmm.
She was in Chicago and I was here. It just was too hard.
Those are really valuable insights. So, can you turn the two negative
And I,
things?
and I feel like it's not fair for me to want to be attracted to somebody from a physical standpoint, but it's part of the package.
But you get to choose who's right for you. And if,
But I don't look at just that though. I look at more than just that.
yeah, we know that. But if healthy and fit and geographically desirable are the positive opposites of that, then that also gives you insight.
That's the reason why I said in a previous conversations, like, how far should I go out geographically? Like, New York is like a 2 hour drive.
So in my mind, where you're at developmentally, not geographically, in connecting with people, I think it's important for you to open it up to the world so that you can start getting evidence that you're attractive and that you can get those first conversations moving so that you can get to the next level. Because I feel like you get if you can get to the first date, you get stopped there. So that's why I'm saying open things up, not necessarily that you're going to be with someone geographically undesirable again, but that you're going to get practice experiencing people because you can't be in a relationship with someone else until there's someone else in the relationship. So, what I'd like for you to do is go out and learn a whole bunch about all the people, and then the people who are geographically desirable are the ones that you'll actually go out with. And 2 hours, in my mind, is not a big deal. But in your mind, it is. And where you live, driving 2 hours is a little bit harder, especially in winter. So it's a very different perspective where the weather is fine and roads are straight and long and you can go at high speeds. 2 hours is no big deal. You turn on the music, listen to a podcast or something or story, and you're like, bam, 2 hours goes by very quickly. But that could be more challenging where you're at. And still, I think we're developmentally where you are um, in the process. Open it up so that you can get the experience connecting with people. Okay.
Since we're talking about that, Leslie, I'm curious to know where was this guy geographically?
He was close. He was close, which made it much more attractive for me. So I'm in your camp. I geographical location to where I was important to me because of the fact that I didn't, I had a kid living at home and I didn't want to be, kind of traveling distances. Um, but I did meet a couple of people who were not as geographically desirable, but I still wanted to see if something would come of that, and I'm glad that I did. I mean, it was like I met with these guys a couple of times. It didn't, and what it provided for me was exactly what Michelle is talking about. It just provided an opportunity to practice having a conversation with a man who was a stranger to me,
Mm-hmm.
to practice, you know, asking for or letting him know, hey, I want to see you again, and also practice, I don't think this is the right match. Um, and I got to do other things besides see these people in person. And what we did, because of the fact that it wasn't geographically close, is we kind of met halfway, like we went on, like with one guy, I went on a hike and we went, we met kind of halfway between where we both lived. And same with the other guy. I think the first time I met him, he came all the way to me, and then after that, we met, closer to where he was, but sort of more halfway, but maybe two-thirds of the way for me to go to him. And um, so, but I think the idea of getting practice is important because that's the piece that um, it was really hard for me at the beginning. I mean, I remember kind of um, really stumbling and falling a lot and feeling like, what am I doing here? And and I don't know the makeup of your group right now, but when I was going through that process and was where you are, I I had a role model. So Terry was my role
Oh,
model.
they know Terry.
So Terry was, easily 6 months ahead of me in terms of, where she was in dating people. And she finally got to the point where she was like, you know what? I'm gonna I am going to do things that I want to do. Like I'm going to suggest things that I want to do because of the fact that, you know, um, if I'm going to spend my time with somebody, even if
Mhm.
they're not somebody for me, I can at least do something fun and do something that I want to do. Go to a museum, go do that. And so I,
Right.
I learned that from her. I thought, you know what, that's a really good strategy, and you can go to a restaurant that you always wanted to go to or go visit a place that you always wanted to go to. I think with the people who I met that way, I did do like a video meeting first because I didn't want to invest the time and energy to go drive someplace if it was going to be a total bust, you know? So,
Yeah, we want to give you the tools so that you can look forward to this meeting this person even before you meet them. You have vetted that they are somewhat in alignment, and now you're going to have fun. And that's the idea. Dating should be super fun. You're looking for what's right, and even if they're not the right, person to ride off into the sunset with, you have now created an environment where you can learn about someone, be a curious detective, as Leslie says, and find out about them to see how they are or are not a match for you while you're doing something that you enjoy. So that way, and I mean, gosh, if you can learn about this person, they could open up a whole new world to you, which, you don't, once you've found your person, it's inappropriate to go dating again. So take this opportunity to go and see what lights somebody up. And are they, do they like to sail? Let's go sailing. Do they fly? Let's go, in a plane after you know them, of course. Or whatever it is, get to know them and then actually learn what is interesting about them. What are their skills? What are their strengths? Go listen to music when they're actually performing. What or their favorite place because it'll open up a whole new world to you in that way. Um, and I know, Scott, you're near areas that are very populated. You can meet halfway or just make a really fun day of it and have this person participate in your really fun day of it if you want to go into the city or something. So, let them be part of your big day that you're going into the city to enjoy. And, they can just be a highlight in your day. You don't have to invest everything. Um, awesome. Okay. Next step of the exercise is to assess, one, see if there are repeated patterns, and then two, check to see which category do these adjectives fall into. So are they mental attributes? Let's put an M next to them or something.
So present,
Spiritual,
that would be emotional or even
being,
spiritual.
yeah, you get to choose. It's your list. Is it mental, spiritual, physical, emotional, material? And Scott, one of yours was physical, but I would like you to ask the deeper question. What was it about physicality that you're looking for? So you can do like the exercise I just asked Leslie. Go deep enough to ask, what was it? What is it? You want her to be healthy. You want your partner to be healthy. Or your energy level is high. So you're hiking and going and biking and da 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 da. And can this person keep up? What is it about that physical attribute that was putting you off?
well, and it could also be, I mean, I think you have to give credence to the fact that maybe he wasn't attracted to that, I mean,
Right.
just
Totally
like
fine.
it doesn't have anything to do with health or anything. It just wasn't attractive. Um,
That's why
you
I'm
know,
saying figure out what is the
yeah,
deeper
the why. Yeah.
question behind the question. What's
Yeah.
the why?
Yeah.
Why is that? Because if it's, I just want someone who's going to be able to keep up with me, that's a different, it doesn't matter the size. She might be able to
Right.
Mm.
outrun you.
So mental, physical, emotional. What else?
Mental, spiritual, physical, emotional, material.
So
Well,
patience, is that more emotional or more mental?
You choose.
if I look at the overall list of everybody, put them all together,
Hmm.
it's mostly emotional
Okay.
Me too.
because being friendly is an emotional thing. Loving, uh, listener. I don't know if listener is emotional or mental. Um, Even tempered is emotional. Uh, Loyal is emotional. I'm not even sure what spiritual means. Uh, and material means nothing to me. I shouldn't say means nothing, but that's like, the five love languages. Materialistic is like gifts is like at the bottom of my list. So I'm all about mental, physical, and emotional. And I guess mental slash means mental slash intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah.
So then start to look again at the themes and which are the traits that you truly need in a partner. And did you discover deal breakers? So Ruti, how is your list going? And are there traits that you tend to need that you tend to attract around you?
The presence and the accepting. I never really thought of those as like something that's so important to me, but
Right.
they seem to come. And then the health conscious. How do I ask people online for health conscious? I went to dinner with one guy and he ordered like a glass of wine, which is totally normal. And then he ordered another glass of wine and said something about washing the day away. And I was like, I don't want to wash any days away. I like my days. Yeah.
Right. Well, that to me would be like a yellow flag of,
Right.
wow, what do you feel that was so challenging that needed washing?
Away. Yes.
And the wine wash is something. Did you ask that question to him?
I didn't. I was just kind of like, I tend to just kind of listen and like kind of see what sediment stays rather than ask a bunch of questions. I feel like when I ask questions, it comes across as judgmental. So I just
Scott, do
kind
you
of,
hear what Ruti
I
is saying right
understand what
now?
she's saying. What's that?
I knew that light bulb was gonna hit super good.
Because like I ask questions. That's how you
Mhm.
learn about people. But yet you don't want it to be like an interrogation.
That was me. I mean, that's what I learned at the beginning is that my style was I was more like I was doing an interrogation because I was nervous and I was like, okay, here's my list of questions. And like maybe this person can answer them. And I mean, and you learn about somebody who, whether they are open to that or not. I mean, one of the first guys I went out with, I did exactly what Michelle suggested, which was I wanted to make sure he said he was who he said he was. And I asked for like, I don't know, a LinkedIn or something like that. And he gave me
Any
this
public information to
public
demonstrate you
information.
are
Yeah.
who
And
you
he
say you
gave
are.
me this song and dance. He gave me his LinkedIn profile, but then he gave me this song and dance about how Match does something and changes the information because they don't want you to go outside their platform or whatever. And so he gave it to me and I found it and the picture on the LinkedIn matched the picture on the pictures from Match and and everything matched up, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, great, turn around, it's fair play, here's my stuff, right? Like I gave him my information. He didn't ask me for it, but I gave it to him. And then when I met him, he actually said, well, here, do you want me to show you my ID so that you can confirm that I am who I say I am? And before that, before I met him, he said, I don't think this is a good way to start off a relationship because you're very suspicious of me. And those are all things I should have really taken note that like I don't even need to go out with this guy. But
right,
I said I would, so I went out anyway, and I went
right.
out with him. And I kid you not that during the date he offered to show me his ID so
Right.
that like you can,
Yeah,
and
I
I
get
just
that
thought, well,
because
this
it's like
is weird.
it may have been weird, but I get that because he's thinking like, what, like, just take a little bit of a risk. I mean, I
Why
know,
should
I
she
know,
take a risk? She could be at risk to take a risk. In this day
It's
and
it,
age,
it's actually really different, Scott, for as a woman kind of going out. I know I actually know more women on Match who don't put their real name, they don't put their real birth date, they put information about themselves because they're afraid of being stalked. And
Mhm.
I didn't do that because I was like, well, I don't know, I just put all my stuff. And come to find out that my husband said to me, he goes, do you know how unusual that is? How many women actually don't put their correct information? And then I found a friend of mine and I was like, her name is Annette, but on the Match, she shows up as Nanette. And I'm like, that's not her name. And so I just thought it was interesting because as a woman, there is a more of a feeling of being at risk. And so, yeah, there is a point of, take a chance or whatever. And my chance was, hey, I just want to make sure that I'm talking to a real person.
but
Mhm.
And and so I was hoping that it would end there because I said to him, like on the text, I said, turn around is fair play. I asked you, you didn't, here's my stuff, like, just so you can verify that I am who say I am. And I thought that was like the end of it. And it turned out that it wasn't, that's all my point.
Scott,
So,
what do you have to say? And then I'm going to
I mean,
add to
I
this.
mean, back in the olden days, 35 years ago, before all this, before all this stuff existed, I put ads in Philadelphia Magazine, or I responded to somebody in Philadelphia
uh-huh.
Magazine. And if I had an ad in there, the only way they could get in touch with me was to send a letter back to me, and it was sent to some PO box, and then it was sent to me from there. And they write about what they liked about my profile and what that I wrote in Philadelphia Magazine, what something about them, maybe send a picture, and they give their phone number because you had to talk first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep, times haven't changed.
Mm-hmm.
Times have changed. And who the majority of women are looking for are, I'm just going to say, not just women. The person you're looking for is someone who's going to be concerned about your safety and security. You want to be with a partner who cares that you are safe.
Okay.
And if in this situation, it means demonstrating in some public way that you are who you say you are, it's a gesture to acknowledge, I care to ensure your security. And when somebody has animosity or pushes back on that, or even like Scott, if you asked somebody who was one of my clients out and you were like, take a risk, I would say, do not go out with that person. Why should she take a risk on someone she does not know anything about, who's not saying who they are?
But I mean, if you're gathering enough information initially and you're talking with a person, well, is this all before you even talk with them?
I had to, it was mostly by text. Like we were like, so we had not had a conversation. We had not had a video call. We had not, it was just kind of, it was mostly over text. And I will say that that's probably the one thing that I learned about all this is that, you know, having a relationship via text or, kind of is very deceiving
You're
because
hiding behind technology.
because as the recipient, you can read anything into it,
Mhm.
and I read a lot more into some of the things that people were saying to me, on text. Um, but the safety thing is it's huge. I mean, like I remember when I went out on my first date with my current husband, we met for coffee and then he asked me out. And he wanted to take me to Santa Cruz, which required me to drive in his car over Highway 17, like 45 minutes. And I was like, I don't know, that's such a good idea. And I'm like, you know what? Will you send me information about your car and a picture of the license plate so I could have the license plate and the make and model of your car? And he has a daughter and he was like, that's totally reasonable. I have nothing to hide. I'm not going to do anything to you. Here.
Right.
And he gave it to me and I mean we laugh about it to this day because I had my friend, a friend of mine and my sister who were my safety patrol who I would
That's right.
report
You
like, oh,
need a
I'm going
dating
out on this
partner.
date, and so I'll call you when I get back or whatever. And I like shared my location with my sister so she could see where we were driving over the hill and all that
Mhm.
stuff because I was like, that is something I normally would never do. I'll meet you there. I don't need to drive with you. Because I have been in a car with somebody who pulled some not very nice things. I was much younger at the time and much more naive. So now I have a different view about it, you
Right.
know?
But do you think it was different 35 years ago? Because 35 years ago, you had to go with what was available.
So 35 years ago, like I tell you, I think there are some things that are different and some things better, you know. I mean, the fact that you can find information about somebody, or that you can, for in my case, that you can share your location with somebody. I had a date with a guy that, he after we went out to dinner, I was young and he said, "Do you want to go for a drive?" And I said, "Sure." And so he takes me up into this area in the mountains. There's no lights, there's no street lights, there's nobody out there. And he pulls the car over and he says, asks me, it's pitch black and it's like, trees everywhere and we're up in the mountains. And he says, "Am I scaring you?" And I'm like, "No." you know, and then he ultimately ended up taking me like some car came and then he drove me some other place. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna end up dead in a ditch. And nobody knows where I am. Nobody knows that I'm out on this date. Nobody knows anything. So, 35 years ago, I did something that made me very uncomfortable. And so that's why it informed me now. I'm glad there's a technology so somebody can know where I'm at.
Yeah.
And,
And
but
it's
it,
important to have a dating buddy who knows where you are, who knows who you're with, who knows as much information as you, who knows where you're going to be. And then when you come back safely and don't get into a car with somebody, don't go into the hike where there's nobody there. That's why, meet in a public place till you know this person. We
Yeah,
don't know them.
I'm not, arguing about that fact.
Yeah.
It's just,
So it's a little different, and I think one of the things that showed me when I was dating, like what is a true gentleman, is somebody who was willing to give me that information and be like, I don't have anything to hide. And it wasn't about you don't trust me. It was we live in a time when, you know, um, bad things happen and you should be safe. You should try to be as safe as you can.
I
Trust
guess,
it,
I
trust
guess,
is earned,
I
not
guess
Yeah.
given.
I'm just saying it was, I don't see it was any different 35 years ago. It was just that the technology was different. So you had to go with what best technology we had.
Yeah.
You could have the same issues 35 years ago.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, all I can say is the Wicked Witch from the West said when she was melting, what a world, what a world, what a world.
Speaking of which, the air conditioning just went off in my building, and I'm like, oh my God, it's just gotten so hot in this room.
Oh no.
Where are
Oh,
you?
now you're melting.
I'm
Don't
in
say where
Cal.
you are because I want to be able to
Yeah.
use this
And
recording.
you do all
Oh,
this, so you do all this stuff, okay? You do all this stuff, and then what happens, Michelle? You're being nice.
Okay, so I'm going to make an assessment. So here's the thing. There's two sides to this scale. We want adventure and we want security, right? So you can be polite, that would be security, and but too much polite means there's no excitement going on. Too much risk, and then we don't feel safe. So somewhere here we need to balance this out. Um, but do you see how we want both of those things, security and adventure, but we need to balance them, which is why, amusement parks are so great because we have this sense of security, but we can get the excitement of the roller coaster ride. So use that as your metaphor a little bit. And no need to back down. You also don't need to give away all your information. I mean, I know that you're a good listener,
What's
Scott.
that?
We I know he's joking with me. And we all know you're a good listener. At the same time, for you to recall back all of the details, I know you're doing this on Wednesday and this on Thursday and this on Friday, so I'm going to be polite and I'm not going to ask you to do anything until Saturday. Just that's a lot of the security. And at the beginning of a relationship, we want to bump up that adrenaline rush where there's an agreed upon this is going to be exciting, which is why I encourage the question of what do you think is something that we would both enjoy doing together, that we would share together? Because then you're interdependent, you're setting the foundation of the relationship you want, you're co-creating, you're involving one another. And then when, in your case, if the conversation continues and it's like, oh, I heard of this great theater production, you're going to be like, yes, somebody who likes theater. Um, and so then that's going to be like, that's going to throw you forward into chemistry going, oh my God, I'm so excited that you enjoy theater. Me too. So when is that? Or where, I understand that there's such and such playing. Would that be something you think that we would enjoy doing or sharing together? But do you see how it's sort of you're being interdependent by saying, do you think we would enjoy sharing that together? You're getting them involved without being too nice about it, but not being, well, let's just make sure that the laundry's done, the kitchen's clean, dum, 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 dum. You still want to be a little exciting. You don't want to be milk toast. You're not. You're exciting and you're fun and you're funny and you're playful. So we want to bring those things out, make sure that there's enough security. You are who you say you are, which I believe you to be. Okay, so we got to the traits you tend to attract. This gives you evidence that you do attract these things already. You got any deal breakers? I think you both got deal breakers. What were some of your deal breakers?
Somebody who doesn't listen.
Right.
And that's the other thing is like as you know about me, is that I spend more time listening than I do talking because this Dale Carnegie thing, talk in terms of other people's interests. But then you can say, well, yeah, but they only can go so far because I deserve to say something about me as well. And the thing is to find out if they're truly interested. If they're truly interested, they'll they'll listen and then they'll ask questions based upon my responses.
Right. They'll lean in, they'll nod their heads, they'll be like, oh, tell me more.
Right. But I really want to know if they really
Why
and
not?
that and this and the one person that I told you that was overweight and geographically undesirable, she was truly like that. I mean, I used to play this game with her. It was just I never played with anybody else called Dear Diary.
Oh,
It's as if nobody was listening to me and I would talk out loud as if I'm writing in a diary and she would listen to everything that I would say and was just accepting of all of it. That was pretty amazing to me.
yeah. That's a beautiful game. I love that. Ruti, what discoveries did you come up with?
The health thing, because it's funny because I kind of wanted to bring that up today to ask how do I ask
Mm.
questions to flush that out, when I'm doing the online thing. Um, and then the presence and the accepting. It's interesting. I never thought that that was such a big deal, but it is.
Hmm. All right. So with health, what about health is so important to you? Is it that they eat right? Is it that they bike 20 miles before you wake up? Is it
I
do
want them
they
to
that they're
like
not on
eat
any
decently,
medication?
not eat decently, not drink a lot of alcohol, and move their body. Not dramatic, I'm like happy if they take a walk 2, 3 times a week or go to the gym a couple times. That's what I mean. They don't have to be marathon runners, but I want somebody that cares about their body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then people that drink, alcohol is linked to cancer. It's like,
So what you want to know is, what activities do you enjoy?
okay.
How often do you get to do the activities you enjoy the most? That might do it. And if what they say is drinking until I have cancer, then not the person for you. I don't know I don't have the scientific background on that one. Um, if because that might give that it's an open-ended question that might inspire some response that will be telling. Okay, so it was health. What was the other one?
Their presence and acceptance.
Is this something you would observe more than ask a question about?
Probably that, that you kind of see it when you meet. Like, do they pay attention to the air in the room, or do they use it as a vehicle to view
Yeah, pay attention to the what in the room.
the air in the room, or do they use the meeting as a vehicle to spew?
There's lots of metaphors. What are yours, Scott?
Well, to me, presence goes along with listening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I too, I want to know that the person's health oriented in the same way that rutabaga does. The thing is, I like you. I mean, I've got limitations. I just told you I just got back from being in Detroit. I went golfing yesterday with my grandnephew who's 5 and my sister. I drove the cart because I can't play golf. And there are a lot of women that want to play golf. I
Mm-hmm.
can't play golf, and I used to live to play golf at one point in my life. That's all that mattered. I can't play anymore because of my back and my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say you want somebody who's health oriented, I do too. But why?
Right.
Because
What's the
because
reason?
because I want to, if I'm going to have a life with her. Um, I, I'm not saying I wouldn't be there for her if things went south, but I'd like to minimize the chances of that
Yeah.
by having somebody who cares about her body and her what goes in her body, what she eats and drinks and exercises somewhat like Rudy was saying. It doesn't have to be 7 days a week for 3 hours at a clip, um, but do enough to care about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at this point in life, there might be somebody on medication. I take a cholesterol medication. And I was the poster child for cholesterol years ago, and I didn't do anything to change my lifestyle. Nothing. The doctor said to me, Scott, I got to tell you, as people age, it's very common that their cholesterol levels go up. I'm like, really? Yes, it's extremely common. I didn't know that. Um, so I mean, I want somebody who's takes care of herself and uh, like Rudy and gives a damn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, I like somebody who's affectionate. Um,
Physically affectionate,
as opposed to what?
emotionally supportive, somebody who is, I don't know, just words of affirmation. So I'm trying to figure this out. I want to know.
Uh, well, yes. In other words, both. I want somebody who's physically affectionate, not necessarily all the time, like out in public all the time, but like behind closed doors, and also emotionally supportive.
Hmm.
That's big for me. Um,
Okay, so what questions could you ask or observations you could make to try and assess those things as early on as you can in the connection with this person?
I can tell that from their demeanor,
Hmm.
the way they respond to things. And best thing is an example. I have a friend from college that she's married. I mean, I've known her for years and years, and she is just very matter of fact about everything in life. She's married. She's got 2 children. I'm thinking there's no way I could have possibly been with that woman because she's just so. For me, I could tell she's not a physically affectionate person. And I don't know how emotionally supportive she would be, just
Mhm.
based upon knowing the type of personality that she has. Very um, from northern New Jersey, it's got the New York mentality. Um, I, I wouldn't want that. I want somebody who's got a pleasant voice that you can tell from the way you say things to her how attentive she's going to be in listening to what I'm saying and responding to those things.
Okay. So now let's take this whole process a step further for the two of you. Leslie's already, uh, she's already,
I'm actually thinking of a good question for you to ask, Scott, if you are with somebody who you feel like you have a connection with and that you want to share some affection, which is exactly what my husband said to me on our second date, which I didn't know how to interpret, but it was actually very good information that he shared, which was he said, I'm a very demonstrative person. And I said, well, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. And he's like, well, I like physical touch and I'm a very demonstrative person. And I want you to know that I am holding back because I don't want to scare you off, but I
Oh.
would love to express my feelings to you in a physical way. And what he meant was he wasn't looking like, oh, let's have sex. He meant he wanted to give me like hugs and he wanted to touch me and hug me and hold me and like kiss me and stuff like that. And he wanted to make sure before he did anything like that that I was okay with it. And I thought that was a very um, gentlemanly way to tell me that that's what he wanted. He just said, I'm very demonstrative," and I was like, "Huh." Okay, nobody's ever told me that before, and but it was
That's
it was a way of
beautiful.
asking permission
Mhm.
without being creepy about it. And he
Mhm.
was like, I'm gonna just like follow your lead, but you just need to know that like when you're ready, I'm ready." Like.
Well, that's
Yeah,
So
interesting
it's
because
like
that's
that
kind of,
thing about the guy I was talking about last week. It's
Mhm.
exactly that. It's perfect.
and this person that I'm telling, that I just got done telling you the story, I could never see her
Mhm.
being that way
yeah.
with somebody. And so well, she obviously probably was or has been with her husband. Um, but I don't come across her as that way. So anyway, um, that's where the five love languages.
Mhm.
Okay, that's where physical. I mean, physical touch. That's what you're
Mhm.
saying. Okay, I don't know which one's top, but they're like tied. Is like physical touch and quality time. But physical touch doesn't happen right away because it just doesn't fit. Even though it had me one of them, the quality time can fit like
True.
Right.
almost immediately.
True.
Because through shared experiences and the communication back and forth, that's how you build the respect and develop the trust that you're looking for. You can't dive into an existing relationship. And to say, I'm just going to take a risk and trust you in this day and age or ever, it's you want to be with somebody who cares enough to make sure you feel secure and you're going on adventure. Elevate them both. And if one goes too high, the other is. So now take this information that you've learned. How can you tell a story about yourself that shares who you are so they know when they meet you, you're sharing who you are with them? How can you take these adjectives and turn it into something that you would share with them early on? Because the questions are answered here, and you want to answer those questions before they're asked so that that person knows who they're engaging with.
What do you mean, like giving, in other words, give her an example in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, this is what a dating profile is all about. And so you can say, for me, I'm this, dun-dun, 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 dun-dun. And part of what we had talked about for you, Scott, is I value an interdependent partnership more than any others. There's so much value in the life experience of give and take, or give and receive, I would say. But you believe that you're being dismissed or because you haven't been married. So let's give them cause to be interested in you and whatever the meaning behind the message or what's the question behind the question of, oh, he hasn't been married, but look, he wants an interdependent partnership where there's giving and receiving and, you know, you know about teamwork and this and that. So we want to put that early on so that it answers that uncertainty for them before you even meet them.
Okay.
Good.
So my profile is very, you even helped me write my opening statement. Uh, uh, Something like, what does it say? My opening statement. Um, Single person looking for my family or something like that.
Aw.
However it's written. And I'm wondering if you help me think of that. And I'm wondering if that's a good opener or not. I'm wondering if women are scared by
You
that.
can change it.
And I
Try
just,
different things.
I'm wondering if like, but to find somebody who wants to get into a serious relationship, you would think that they would like that statement. I'm wondering if they get
You
too
only
scared.
need one. You're looking for your one person. So we're trying to, have people self-select out
Well,
and the one person.
that'll help self-select if they're not looking to get into anything serious.
Right.
Well, it's what's interesting is that I don't remember if on my profile originally I had, I'm looking for a long-term relationship. And I will tell you that one of the first experiences I had when I was texting with somebody, and it was like the first time that somebody had been engaging with me, and um and they said something like, we had chatted back and forth. It was like, What are you looking for?" And I am a very honest person and I don't lie. And so I said, "Well, I'm looking for a long-term committed relationship." And that was like, woo, that guy was off very quickly. "Thank you. It's been nice knowing you. Unmatch, because that's not what he was looking for." And I remember when I met my husband that was, I think he asked me, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "Well, I am looking for a long-term committed relationship." You would have thought that maybe I would have learned not to open with that, but I said that. And then I said, "How about you? What are you looking for?" He goes, "Well, it would be nice to have somebody to go out to dinner with." And I thought, "Oh, I just
He
wrecked
didn't
that."
want to scare you off.
He didn't want to scare me off. But, I don't know. I mean, I believe what Michelle says, that you really do only need to find one. And sometimes your best thing is that you don't want to pick the people who are not looking for the same thing that you are. And so if you're very overt at the beginning of, "Hey, this is what I'm here for," you know, eh, you just have to have one at the right time. And I think one of the things that was the most helpful for me to find new matches was to change my pictures around,
Mhm.
to, make some modifications to my profile description. And
One thing about Bumble, sorry to interrupt
It's
because I
okay.
normally don't do that, um, is that it's not, they don't have a lot of characters that you can write out like you can on Match.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's pretty limited.
I don't remember specifically, but I know I had worked, I think at one point I had like a tome about myself. And then Michelle helped me cut it down and cut it down. And
Oh, too long.
yeah, it was too long. And so, I mean, like, I'm looking at um some of my stuff that I have from when I was um doing, my profile. And, like I had said, like, one of mine was, um here's my it was my best attempt at a partner wanted listing for this online classified ad. And I started with: "Intelligent, caring, honest woman seeks authentic, kind, and loving man with a great sense of humor for a long-term relationship." And I kept changing that. Like, I kept like, "Oh, I gotta," like, that's a lot. That's a lot right there in the first
Yeah,
sentence.
and it is a lot less. And the thing is about that is that everybody wants that. I can't tell
Mhm.
you how many profiles that I see the woman say, I want somebody who make me laugh. I would like to see somebody, I want to see somebody who makes me mad.
Careful
Yes,
what you ask for, Scott.
yes. Yeah, who doesn't want somebody to make them laugh? Like, who
Not
doesn't want somebody to
everybody.
say,
There's some people are more serious.
Curious.
That's the thing. I actually had one friend of mine, and she says, "I don't like when they're funny. I always feel like they're making fun of me when they're being too funny. I just want
Mhm.
somebody that'll be more serious." And she was just that's who she was. She was not cracking jokes. She was not cracking smiles. She found the guy. And he was very like straightforward, and he was a good beta guy. He did what she liked to do, and it worked for her. For me,
Mhm.
I would cry if there wasn't something to laugh at, but it wasn't good for her. So
Right. So laughter is like I like to travel because there's different reasons to laugh. One because and like the America's Funniest Home Video show is based on when you see something that didn't go the way you expected it to go and you are safe, our autonomic system, our automatic response is to laugh. Ah, I'm safe. Phew, ha 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 ha. Then so that's the physical one. There's also one that's more situational, where it's like, here's the situation and the outcome wasn't what we expected. I guess that's similar. And so we laugh because, oh, it was a surprise. But then there's also the people who can just see the positive in things and make light of them, as opposed to somebody who would be upset or negative or angry at whatever situation is arising. And then you have to navigate that challenge with somebody who's also upset. So when they say, I want someone who makes me laugh, typically, it's somebody who is smart, funny, they know the situation, and they're looking for inside jokes. And those inside jokes are developed over time.
yeah, certainly.
So again, there's varying degrees and different ways that we make people laugh, but being lighthearted and being able to navigate challenges together in partnership in a light way is typically what, sprinkles the magic dust on somebody's heart. That was a weird metaphor, but you
no,
get
I like it.
it.
Me,
Um,
something happened. So here I talk about a specific experience. I told you two people from New York. Been,
right.
okay. One of them asked me just a basic question. And I think this was through Bumble, Leslie. And I think it was just, I don't know if she asked her or was it something that you click off because it was just so quick. It was, are you consider yourself an extrovert or an introvert? That was it. I answered
Hmm.
her question and I went into detail. And I said, I consider myself a reserved extrovert. And I explained to her what that means. She got back with me. This is the first time this ever happened. I didn't know you even could do it. But I guess I should have known because I saw the microphone in the bottom right hand corner. She got back with me with an audio message.
Hmm.
I never seen, never, anybody ever did. That was awesome. Okay. And she asked me some questions. So I thought, it's only fair. You talk about being fair, right, Leslie? I thought it's only fair. I'll answer you with an audio message. And I
And
did.
she's being responsive. That was one of your words, right?
Yeah, yeah. She got back with me with an audio. Okay. I got back with an audio message. Nothing. And one of her things about her profile is she says she values actions more than words. And she also says that she values integrity. Okay. And I said, I'm right with you there. And actions do speak louder than words. Um, and I told her some things about me. I said, but the thing is, I said, even though I'm telling you this, you won't know this until give me the chance to show you because actions speak louder than words. Didn't hear from her. After X amount of days, so then I sent her a text again through the app saying, just curious to know if you're still interested. And I forget what all I said. I can read it to you, but I'm not going to bother unless you want to know. And I haven't heard back from her. And this woman was, I thought was great. Uh, I don't know what to do about it.
There's, I mean, unless you just follow up and go, uh, you know, just following up, loved your voicemail or your voice text, thought I'd share one with you. Pull a lyric from something or a line from theater production that might be playing in Manhattan, so make it bright, keep it short. Um, and leave it as a little bit of a cliffhanger. But other than that, we don't know what her life is and what's going on there.
Well,
We have no idea.
I will tell you, I sent her that audio message on August 7th, I think it was. So this was 4 days later. In fact, I think you're the one who told me it's time to get in touch with her again. And I said, and her name is Sunny, at least on the app. Just wanted to touch base with you to say hello. Again, I really enjoyed hearing your audio message and hope you gleaned some valuable information from mine. I really like knowing how much you
No, that
value.
that it's too much information. You're giving her the, like Leslie said, the tomb. Keep it high level. This is not your longtime friend. Keep it adventure. Short, short and sweet. You're not old friends already.
That
So
was 2 sentences. You're saying that's too long?
for if she's not giving you information back, you want to match what's going on.
Well,
So she's answering your question by not saying anything, which is totally acceptable in the game at this point. So if you're interested, give her a one sentence. Thought I'd follow up, see where things are going, or the theater is calling. Are you going to take the seat next to mine or something? Make it fun and then be done. She's telling you with inaction, she's giving you an answer.
he
So
is
if
giving
you
me an
can give
answer.
her something compelling in a very short message, great. If not, she's already doing something else.
I feel like we're kind of fishing for an opportunity to talk to somebody real and then meet somebody real. But at the fishing stage, you can't be like too overexcited about the process. You don't know what they're like, what they're really like, if they're even really real. The other day, I was talking to some guy and he sounded great and his were fabulous. And then he asked me what I do for a living, and I told him, and he unmatched me and disappeared. So I don't know what happened to him. It's like something. I don't know. It wasn't what he was looking for. Maybe like
It's
he
no
met
reflection
somebody.
on you. It's simply not a match.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to say is like we can't get until it's like real and you're meeting them and you met face to face two, three times. This is just kind of like we're like Fantasyland. We're like fishing for an opportunity to meet and
Mm.
make it real. But we're like fishing. It's not real yet. So you can't get too upset or too overexcited about whatever happens. It's just like it's kind of like you said with the PO box and the phone call. It's like until you met for coffee, you don't even know if they're real. And you just have to be patient with the process
Right,
and
right.
keep weeding.
Follow the process. So take
Yeah.
the adjectives that Leslie and I helped you come up with today. Understand your deal breakers. Know that you have evidence that you will attract these kinds of people to you, and use this to represent yourself and who you're looking for as you're diving into the dating pool. And that's the art of relationshiping.
The
Yeah.
abyss.